We are going to look at the book of Ezra today. Ezra, in the Hebrew Bible, the book of Ezra and Nehemiah are one. So it's usually combined together and called Ezra. And in some it's called Ezra and Nehemiah, but it's treated as one book. But in our Bible, Ezra is a different book, Nehemiah is a different book, but the stories run together. So I'm going to treat them separately as in our Bible, but consider Ezra as in part 1 and Nehemiah as in part 2. Now Ezra was a priest and he was in the lineage of Aaron. It's generally believed that Ezra wrote the book of Ezra and he wrote the book of Nehemiah, and he also wrote the book of the Chronicles. That's the general belief. Now, the meaning of Ezra means helper, a help. And if we look through the book of Ezra and Nehemiah, we will see that Ezra was a great help to the Israelites. So before we go into the book of Ezra, I'll back up a bit. And we all remember when the Israel nation was one under the first king Saul, and then David, and then Solomon. We had one nation called Israel. But under Solomon's son, Rehoboam, the nation was split into two. So we had the north and we had the south. The north comprised of 10 tribes, and they kept the name Israel, being the majority. The south comprised of 2 tribes. We had Judah and Benjamin. They were in the south, and they were called Judah because the tribe of Judah was bigger than the tribe of Benjamin. So we had the south and the north. So for the book of Ezra, we're going to focus on the south, Judah, not on the north, Israel. So when the tribe split, when Israel split and became two sides, north and south, they were still both disobeying God. They were both worshipping idols. They were still both doing things which God did not want them to do. And God kept on sending prophets to them from every side, because God does not do things without a warning. If he wants to punish, he will always send a warning through prophets in those days, nowadays through his word, through our dreams, lots of various ways before he now punishes. So he sent lots of prophets both to the north and to the south to warn them that if they did not stop, they will be taken away from the land for 70 years. Because he'd originally warned them, if you remember, when he took them out of the land of Egypt, that the place you are going, where I have driven out the occupants for you, if you go in there and you do what they did, and I drove them out, I will drive you out. So it's not by your strength, and it's not because you are good that you are in that land. It's just because of my mercy. That's the only reason why you're in the land. So if you go into the land and you do what they did, you will be removed. You will be evicted from the land. But they, of course, started doing what the heathen nations had been doing, and God had been sending prophets. So to the north, Israel, the last prophet that he sent was Hosea, and then Hosea gave the warning. They did not heed, and then they were taken into captivity by the Assyrian Empire. And in the south, Judah, which we will be looking at today, they also did not heed all the prophets, and the last prophet there was Jeremiah. And Jeremiah prophesied that they will be taken into captivity for 70 years. But he also prophesied that there will come a time when they will come back. So they will not be in captivity forever. And he also prophesied that the Babylonian Empire that God will use to take them out of the land will also themselves be overpowered by another empire. So they did not heed the words of Jeremiah, and Babylon came and took Judah away. So for the book of Ezra, we're focusing on Judah, not on Israel, the 10 tribes, but on the 2, Israel and Benjamin. That's what we're focusing on today. So the Babylonian Empire, as Jeremiah prophesied, they were now overturned, overpowered by the Persian Empire. So the king of Persia, called Cyrus, who had been prophesied by Isaiah back in Isaiah 44, he said Cyrus is going to let the people go back to Jerusalem and rebuild the temple and go back, and settle back again. So some scholars say Cyrus that Isaiah prophesied and the Cyrus in Ezra are not the same. As far as I'm concerned, Cyrus is Cyrus. So we're dealing with him as the same person, because nothing is impossible for our God to do. So Cyrus, now he calls all the nations, because Babylon had not only conquered Judah, they conquered lots of different nations all over the world, not just Judah. So the king of the Persian king Cyrus, he called all the nations together. He called all of them together, and then he now said he's giving them the freedom to all go back to their nations. All of you can go back, go and rebuild your temples, and when you rebuild your temples, pray to your gods for me. So all these nations, they're not mentioned in the book of Ezra, because the Bible is Israel's story. So we don't know who these other nations are. We don't know their stories. We only know Israel's story. They all go back. Now we're focusing now on Judah, the two tribes. So they go back in batches. The first batch go with Zerubbabel. Zerubbabel is the leader. There are three leaders. Zerubbabel is the leader. He takes the first batch. The second batch goes with Ezra, the topic of the book Ezra. And the third batch go back with Nehemiah. And we will treat that in the book of Nehemiah. So we won't treat that today. So under Zerubbabel, about 50,000 roughly, maybe less, decide to go back under Zerubbabel. The original exile were about 500,000 or something. And while they've been in exile for 70 years, they would have increased. But these were the amount of people that wanted to go back. And we can see, because it's 70 years, it's a long time to be in exile. Most of the people that had been taken out of captivity had died. Most of these people were born in Babylon. They do not know Jerusalem. They've got children now, they've got grandkids, they've got businesses, schools, everything set up. And to leave all of that and go back to a place where they have to start from scratch, from afresh, is quite difficult. So not everybody chooses to go back. The majority choose to stay where they are. So these people go back with Zerubbabel and the other two leaders. They go back. When they get back to Jerusalem, now we should remember that the land, Jerusalem, is not completely empty. There are three sets of people that are in the land. The first set of people are those, when the Babylonians came to capture the people, they ran. They ran to the hills, they ran to the neighboring cities. After they'd all gone, this set of people came back. So they were in the land. We have the Samaritans. The Samaritans are Jews, but they're mixed, Jews and mixed, so they're not pure Jews. They were in the land. And if you remember in 2 Kings 17, there was a king who sent some people to go and stay in the land. And when those people came, because they were worshipping their own gods, God sent lions to kill them. So most of them were being killed. So that king, Ezra or something, he now had to send priests to go and teach them about the gods of the land of Jerusalem, so that they will not all die. So they had to teach them about Yahweh, the one true God. So even though these people now started serving Yahweh, they were still serving their own gods. So they were serving two gods together. So these three sets of people were in the land in Jerusalem when these people from exile went back. So the first thing they did when they got back was to build an altar. They built the altar, they sacrificed on it, because it's most likely during the 70 years they've not sacrificed, they've not built an altar, they've not worshipped God. So they built an altar. After that, they now laid the foundation for the temple. After the foundation was laid, there was great rejoicing in the land. But the old people who remembered the original temple that was pulled down were crying. So maybe the emotion of it, because it's similar to when Germany pulled down the wall, the Great Wall of Berlin. When it came down, the young people were rejoicing. They were happy that the wall was down. They could now pass freely. The older people who remembered how it was before the wall were all crying, the emotion, that now, this is how it was before, and now, it's gone back to how it was. So they were crying with the emotion. The young ones were crying with joy. So it's a similar thing that happened after the foundation was laid. Now here comes the opposition. Those people who were in the land, which I just mentioned, they now came to Zerubbabel and the others and said, we also want to help. We want to join in. We want to help you build the temple. And they said no. They refused their help. So we don't know why the help was refused. It could be because they might be thinking, when the Babylonians came, you ran away. You didn't come into captivity. So we don't want you to join. They might be thinking, the others are not pure Jews. You're mixed blood. We don't want you to join in building the temple to our God. Or they could be thinking about the other group, the third group, that you worship God and your gods. So you don't worship just the one God, how we do. We don't want you to join. We don't know what the reason is, but they said no. So because they said no, these people now sent a letter. They sent a message to the king Artaxerxes and said, these people, they are building their temple. Have you not heard of them? When they finish building the temple, they will not pay tax to you anymore. They will set up their city and they will appoint their own king. And if care is not taken, they will organize an army and come and overthrow you. You are sitting down there, you are watching. So the king sends a message back and says, halt that work immediately. Stop building that temple. So the work stops. For over 10 years, the building ceases. No work done anymore on the temple. So because they're no more building the temple, the people start building their own houses, start building their own empires, their own businesses. Nobody cares anymore about building the temple. Until Haggai and Zechariah, two prophets, and they now rose up and started motivating the people, saying, come on, we have to start building the temple. Come on, everybody, you can't just be building your own houses. Come on. But we were told to stop work. It doesn't matter. Come on, God is with us. Let us continue building the temple. So the work starts again on the temple, and of course the opposition comes again. You cannot be doing work for God and not expect any opposition. They may silence you for a bit, but they can't shut you up permanently if your ministry is ordained by God. These oppositions came again. You were told not to build the temple, and you are building it again. And so this time the people now said, okay, you send a message, tell them to check in the archives, tell them to check the chronicles. We were ordered to come and build this temple by King Cyrus. Let them check. They will see the decree where it was made. So fortunately, because God was with them this time around, while those people went to check the building work, they did not tell them to stop building. While they go and check, the building work continued. So the message now got back. This time Darius said people should go and check the archives and see if it is true. They checked the archives. They saw the decree by Cyrus saying yes, they should go and build the temple, and even they should give them anything they need from the king's account, the king's coffers, gold, jewelry, silver, anything they need. So Darius now sent message back and said, do not stop the work. Allow them to continue building the temple and give them anything that they require. So that was how God showed them favor through Darius and through Cyrus, and the temple was completed. After the temple was completed, they celebrated all the laws, the book of Moses, the festivals. They did the Sabbath. They did a sin offering. And the amazing thing about the sin offering is they did not just sacrifice 2 animals for the 2 tribes, but they sacrificed 12 animals for the whole nation of Israel. So even though they were in the minority, they didn't just say, let's sacrifice our one and leave the others. They sacrificed 12 animals. So that was how the building was completed. After the building was now completed, Ezra now comes to Jerusalem. He brings along with him the priests and the Levites. He's a holy man. He's very good at the scriptures. He studies the word constantly. These people that have gone back, they were not studying the word. They don't know much about the Torah when they were in captivity. So from the time the first batch leave to Ezra coming to Jerusalem, it's about 80 years. So it's quite a long time. It's quite a long time in between. So he now goes to join them so he can teach them the Torah. He can teach them the law of Moses. He can teach them how to worship and, how to obey God so that they will not fall under God's wrath. So he goes back, and he starts teaching the people about the law. And then, however, some people now went to Ezra and said, can you see what the men were doing? Even the priests who should know better, since they came back, they started taking foreign women. They are now married to foreign women. And we were commanded not to marry foreign women because there's that temptation that they can be lured into worshiping false gods and false idols, and it will also pollute the holy seed. So when Ezra heard this, he tore his clothes, he pulled out his beard, he wept, he cried, he said, God, forgive all of us, we have sinned. So you see, that's a good priest. He did not say they have sinned, we have sinned. This is the reason why they were taken into exile in the first place. And now that God has shown them favor, they're back. They went back into doing what they were not supposed to do. So Ezra wept before the newly built temple. Other people came and joined in. They all raised their voices. They all cried. They were all asking God for forgiveness. And then some men came and said, okay, what we will do is send all these women away with the children. Now, note here, Ezra did not say this is what they should do. God did not say this is what they should do. This was their decision that they took. The same way when Zacchaeus, when he went on top of the tree, he came down, Jesus dined with him. He told Jesus, today I will make restitution. Jesus did not say make restitution. He said it, and it was honored. So those men decided that they will send all the wives and the children away. I think 4 men said no, that won't be nice, but they were outnumbered, outvoted. So that happened. So they sent all these women and all this. It took about 3 months before everything came to pass because there were quite many. And then the final chapter lists the names of these offenders, that these were the people who married foreign women, these were the people who married, so all their names were listed. It's kind of like a list of shame, really. So anyway, they were all forgiven, and that's how the book of Ezra ends. It ends on an anticlimax. So we will carry on this in the book of Nehemiah. But just for you to note that as a Christian, if you're doing God's work, you will get opposition, but you do not give up. No matter what, you do not give up. They may try to silence you, but as the Bible says, the vision, even though it will tarry, it will surely come to pass. You will, unless if you are not doing God's work. So you don't give up. They told you not to teach anymore in the church. Sit down. If it's God's gift in you, you will find a venue. You will find an avenue and you will teach again. They told you to stop singing in the church. If it's God's gift for you, you will find a venue. You will find a way and you will sing again and lead people to Christ. So we will stop here for today, and next time we shall continue in the book of Nehemiah. Thanks for watching.